I used to kind of thrive on chaos, but as I get older, I really need a lot of emptiness or else I can't function. I can't think about 12 things at one time. I kind of have to, that's why it's kind of a white page, because everything needs to have a lot of space around it, because that's the luxury of being able to enjoy focusing on things. My main reference is usually architectural. I mean, it's always very reassuring to see something that defined and that kind of eternal. It has such a distinct signature and consistency, so that always reassures me. We live on the top 2 floors. It's a 5-story building, and when we first moved in, it was a warren of office cubicles. So we ripped it all out, and lo and behold, it had the most amazing concrete bones. So for us to be able to kind of find the bunker of our dreams here in the 7th arrondissement of Paris is kind of a big surprise. I like things very simple. I just like benches. Everything should just be kind of modest and humble and super simple and as severe as possible. After that, you can add a few pretty things, but I like things a little aesthetic. I don't like mood boards. A mood board would just explain too much to everybody. I don't want everybody to know what my composition is about and where my references came from. And also, I don't want a literal example of my references in front of me. I like kind of having references that are vague, that I kind of force myself to have to use just as a memory instead of a visual example. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how to make Tool look modernist and brutalist. And I'm combining all of these colors and layers. I just spread out a lot of fabrics on my desk and figure out what the next collection is going to look like from there. Every new collection is just kind of a reflection of the one before it, so I'm kind of, you know, we've all looked at past designers, but I study my own stuff more than other people's, which is a terrible admission of some kind of ego, but but anyway, yeah, that's how I kind of feel like I can make progress, by studying the mistakes and successes of my past, so.
Today we meet a king of fashion, Rick Owens.
Look at the shoes, look at the outfits.
We go to the Rick Owens fashion show at the Palais de Tokyo in Paris to get our mind blown away.
Do we need more action?
Yeah. Out of this world empresses, muses on the roof throwing jasmine leaves. A very rare thing, we have access to a fitting with Rick Owens. We get a glimpse into one of the most creative and subversive and wise mind of fashion, Mr. Rick Owens. We talk about his legendary heels and boundary-breaking sense of style. Access is all access. This is exceptional. This is not a video. This is a privilege.
Gothic dark. Like a lion.
Hello, I'm Loïc Prigent. You should definitely subscribe to my channel if you want to see the very best of the fashion scene. Leave a comment, hit the notification bell, and binge on all my other videos. Today we have a meeting with the Roi de l'Avant-Garde, Rick Owens. He's typing on his computer. We're back from the COVID lockdowns, back from the pause. Outside, the Paris Fashion Week is back, beating hard the most voracious appetite for clothes.
I am just doing a press release.
You're doing it yourself?
Yeah.
So this is what will be in the YouTube video, for example? I read them religious.
Returning bombastically at full blast to the Palais de Tokyo Parvis seemed to ignore the humbling experience we'd all went through together and are still experiencing. We didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. I studied architecture. I looked at everything Art Nouveau. I got into a heavy Art Nouveau period. We took acid, we took mushrooms, which I hadn't done for a long time, and that was in the garden. And it was lovely. It was the loveliest experience. It was like, now was a good time.
Do you need to check the silhouette?
No, I'm not. I'm just enjoying. I don't need to check anything. I'm just enjoying. Isn't that pretty?
And yes, we got to film a fitting, une séance de travail. This is Tyron Dylan Sussman, model, muse, and today, stylist.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
And then maybe we can stitch that. No, it's tulle. It's nylon tulle over black chiffon, over black double-faced leather. It's heavy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This is the day of the Rick Owens show, where in September 2021, this is his first fashion show in Paris since the beginning of the COVID thing. Models are excited. The martini is ready for her close-up. Rick Owens inspects his creations on the lineup. He's calling the models by number. And look number 1 will be no other than Michel Lamy, the all-time muse of the house. A boom of white smoke on the Palais de Tokyo fountain.
I've always tried to do these shows in the Palais de Tokyo that were big and dramatic, but that were elemental and that were not about building sets that would be thrown away.
Michel Lamy opens the show, magistral. It's not a train, it's like black smoke following her. She walks on her radical high heels, mysterious volumes forming an abstraction of a skirt, unraveling. Mysterious necklace, a brutalist necklace produced by Gossens, the Chanel-owned jewelry maker. Body is sculpted by Sport, high priestess who comes in peace, the kind of makeup that says, I can heal you, take mushrooms with me, come with me to boxing practice. She does a full tour of the fountain, alone. And then, the models start the spectacular démonstration de mode. First silhouette is about sexy, but not your sexy cliché, reinventing this whole thing. Showing body wearing the highest cuissard possible, showing maximum skin without showing anything, reinventing mystery.
How do you want them to walk in the runway?
Sedately and not very fast, and not ferociously, but benevolently. I don't want rich bitches.
How are you going to walk on the catwalk?
So it's more of a confident zen, you know, not too powerful, not too angry, just chill. Because you were usually like fast, angry, fierce. But today it's zen. Walk like we're walking to heaven.
What do you like about Rick Owens' fashion?
I love the shoes. I love the extraness. I'm an extra girl, so this is me. And it's all black, so you can never go wrong with that. That's good.
Coming to Paris, I had some trepidation because I knew that everybody was going to flex. As soon as everybody had the chance, they were going to flex. And I thought, we can be as honorable and as noble as we want. We're going to look weak unless we flex back. We have to flex too. How do we do that in a thoughtful, non-douchey way? And you know, I'm not sure I found the answer. Of course, there's fog machines, and we had a test yesterday, and the fog is so big that it ends up being a big show, like always.
Shoes are high, and taking a sharp 90 degrees turn is at your own risk. Signature Rick Owens monster shoulder, so big they could be a parody or camp, but they're actually cool by now. A zipped bomber for a classic silhouette of the house. A reference that is, according to Rick Owens, the female equivalent of Le Corbusier's modular man, the human silhouette supposed to be standard for modern architecture.
There is a brisk logic to the pursuit of beauty above all else that has always appealed to me. The endlessly honing and refining of creative signatures and those that I've always admired.
A spiderweb knit with a well-placed hole. Arms and hoods are removable, depending on the mood and situation.
So that is matte paillette. It has an amazing texture. It's almost metallic, like foil or something.
It could be bling.
Bling? Yeah. And I don't mind bling. We have some bling.
Oh,
Well, yeah. We do bling. Sparingly and modestly, because I believe in a very sedate aesthetic, but there have to be moments of absolute ridiculousness. There has to be a sense of humor. There has to be flamboyance sometimes. I mean, we can't be too serious.
A solemn business suit, that means business. The lining is outside, the complex structure is visible. This is Rick Owens telling us he's a tailleur.
Can I see Art Nouveau in this?
Don't you think? And also those skirts are very of that period. They're kind of these mermaid skirts that flare out in drag. And you know, I never know if it's really all that literal. And the idea is that you don't want to take your influences and make them literal. You want to blend them in so that they become something else.
Train like dark smoke behind the model. Maslin creating a fog, and the collection body is revealed with almost lingerie effects. Many fabrics, cottons, denims are GOTS certified, the highest organic textile standard. Backstage, the creation never stops. Scissors cutting through a skirt. Pins added to control what will be revealed. Above the building of the Musée d'Art Moderne, Temple of Modern Art, yes, muses on the roof, are throwing jasmine. Jasmine is supposed to come from Rick Owens' own Lido terrace near Venice, as a reference to the 4 shows he did from the Lido through 2020 and 2021. Promesse is mixing glam and thoughtfulness, making us look at the Paris sky, making us think about the wind, about hedonism. Coat is sleeveless, ripped, rough cut, but a sophisticated rough cut, of course. Nothing is rough about this cut. Armhole exaggerated, the tailoring visible. Platform shoes are an event. They are thigh-high, sliced, designing the leg, a mix of sex and Sparta.
You're wearing the same heel, actually.
I always wear these now, yeah. This has become my uniform. As I get older, and especially after COVID, we need to step it up. We need to be a little bit more formal. I need to bring a little bit more ceremony. Situations I'm in, elevate them more a little bit. That's what I'm in the mood for.
Formal in my mind means conservative.
Conservative isn't the worst thing. I mean, conservative in its best expressions is about being polite and being respectful of other people. But then other times, conservatism can be about bigotry, definitely. But a little bit of formality, presenting yourself at your best to other people and being polite, I'm crazy about that. That's great. That's the kind of formality I'm talking about.
She wears her gown as a mask. A visual reference, maybe having sophistication, out of this world, not touching anything without a ceremony, the gloves are high. Color effect that Rick Owens calls a soft bleeding dégradé. The collection goes orange, and the last numbers are full orange, a crépuscule.
That I'm able to be as autobiographical as I can be, and that's an asset. Not a lot of people can do that in the fashion industry anymore. There's so much committee decision. So when I'm able to talk about things that are so intimate and personal to me, like Lido, where I spend a lot of time, like Porterville, where my entire aesthetic is probably a reaction to that kind of oppressive, intolerant kind of, I don't mean to be unkind to Porterville because oppression and intolerance are everywhere. But when I was growing up, that was an experience that taught me a lot. And it taught me that my role in life is to be the opposite of that. My role in life is to be a counterbalance to oppression and intolerance. If by providing different aesthetic options, suggesting different aesthetic options, I can blur the lines of what can be considered very strict aesthetic standards, that is my job. That's what I want to be known for.
It's like a life's mission.
It kind of is, and there's really no payoff. Well, there is. Just acceptance and being able to communicate with the world and feel heard. That is a huge payoff. I'm very grateful and always very conscious of that because validation is one of our biggest motivations, and I have been so validated. I've been so heard.
You're showing in your house in Paris, which seems to be a sort of another kind of wrinkle in that notion of coming home in a way. We were just talking about how your house it's almost womb-like, but also it's where you've realized you're going to live out your days, so it's almost tomb-like. So I'd love to hear about that from you.
Well, that kind of realization kind of came recently where I looked around and I thought, oh, this is where I'm going to die, so I want to get the windows fixed. I want to fix this place. But part of that, I'm looking over the narrative arc of my aesthetic output, and I'm thinking, are my urges the same now as they were when I left Porterville? It's always a utopian ideal. This aspiration for a tolerant, inclusive, eerie, elegant life. And that came from Porterville. When I look around here, I'm thinking, not bad. I kind of made some headway.
Well, with the way the world is right now, that what you've just said, it almost adds a sort of degree of social comment to what you do.
Fashion is communication. Everything that we put on, we are communicating to other people, and communication is the meaning of life. So I have a high opinion of fashion and what fashion can do. and fashion's role in society. There is a beautiful scene of Christine wearing beautiful hand-knotted feather coat while Michelle is flying over her and they're kissing, and I'm below both of them on my knees with Christine pissing in this long, graceful arc of urinating into my mouth. Hi, ID. I'm Rick Owens. I have received these delicious questions from delicious people, so I'm going to start. Okay, the first one is from Chris Van Ash. Chris is the loveliest, gentlest, nicest guy. Hi, Rick. I always felt we had the best meetings on Sundays at breakfast with my partner, who's also my stylist and consultant. What's it like working with your partner? Do you keep things strictly separated, or do you bring work home? My work is kind of my life. There's not much of a separation. I've always worked that way. It ends up being more honest and sincere and pure. So I don't even really know if it's work. It is life. My next delicious question is from Danielle Levitt. Okay, why do you write in all caps? I write in caps because everything comes out as kind of a proclamation, and there is kind of an artifice to it that's similar to a child speaking too loudly in church. To me, it's kind of just loud and cheery. But also, it just seems there is a tediousness from having to go back and forth from lowercase to uppercase. Just pick one. Matt Lambert. We have done beautiful work together. He was the director of Butt Muscle, the video by Christine that Michelle and I did cameos in. If you could be a fly on a wall in anyone's bedroom, who would it be? Actually, I would have wanted to be there. Supposedly in Angie Bowie's book, she talks about going into the bedroom and finding David Bowie and Mick Jagger in bed together. That is the fly I would have wanted to be. Like, what actually happened? All right. Sissy Misfit, I found online, where I find a lot of stuff. Isn't Instagram the best thing? When I work with young people, I'm very conscious of the fact that they could feel exploited, because I've been there and I know that kind of vulnerability. And with Sissy, if she was apprehensive, she didn't show it. I hope she enjoyed working together as much as I did. Hey Rick, loved working on the Dr. Martens collab. How did you find breaking the boundaries between the two brands and incorporate two visions in one? I don't know if they're all that separate. Dr. Martens was something I experienced in my youth. Those shoes always represented this kind of masculine vitality. Guys flying through the air in those boots, and like the smell of piss and beer, which made it even more exciting and titillating, because there was a lot of homoeroticism there. Sissy Misfit's second question. Also, if you could find yourself in an imaginary dystopian scenario for one day and experience it without getting hurt, what would that be? I like the idea of reminding myself how insignificant I am by being in the middle of nature, by being in the middle of an ocean or being at the sea. There is something very reassuring to remind yourself every once in a while you need to take yourself out of your own trivial little problems and consider yourself as a speck. My next question is from Stephen Jones. Michelle has been wearing Stephen Jones hats for years, and when I look back on pictures, I can kind of recall the era based on Stephen's pictures. And there was one era where she was wearing this black Comme des Garçons thing that kind of made her look like a black beetle, with this hat of Stephen's that was kind of just this big black bow. Because Michelle is just like this barbaric little animal, and to stick a bow on top of her head was just the most perverse thing I could think of doing. And you know, it's not like Stephen did it to her. Michelle chose it. Stephen Jones. To me, Dr. Martens had a special sort of magic. Tell me about your relationship with them. I think I mentioned this the first time I did a press release for Dr. Martens. There's something, it's almost like a male corset. The way that they're laced up, it kind of, on the ankle, it creates this corset that leads up to the swell of a calf. And if the calf is well defined, it can be very effective. Claremont twins. Shannon, what are the hardships of being who Rick is currently in today's time? I don't know if there are any. I'm having a great time. Sinead. If you weren't a designer, what would be your second dream job? I would love to be the head gardener at the Vatican. Gwendolyn Christie. Gwendolyn Christie is the most formidable, wonderful creature, isn't she? Which film would you have loved to have starred in? There's going to be a lot. Cleopatra, the Cecil B. DeMille version. The Night Porter. I would have loved to have been. Well, I think I just wanted to be. Who's the actress from The Night Porter? Famous, famous, famous. One of the most beautiful women ever. Charlotte fucking Rampling. Charlotte Rampling, Vanessa Redgrave, and Maggie Smith. I would have wanted to play any of their roles. Okay, Ricky Thompson. What's the craziest, most unique design you've ever designed? I was really happy with our handheld fog machines, or we had our shoes. We had the platform boots and had a little pocket that you could slot in a personal fog machine. We might not produce tons of it because making things like that are unusual takes research. It takes, you have to convince people to do it. It ends up just being an expensive whim on my part. I've known Rick Castro maybe, could it be 40 years? Rick Castro and I were close in Los Angeles, and our group of friends called him Bad Rick, and I was Good Rick. And I think that pretty much tells you everything. Hey Rick, it's Rick, how are you? He always sends us emails like that. Do you remember our lusty lost nights at the meat rack on Santa Monica Boulevard in Silver Lake, or is it all a haze? By the way, the Spotlight Bar reopened last week as a hipster DJ club. Thoughts? You know, I actually don't remember nights at the meat rack. I remember them on my own and with another friend, and I don't remember, we must have run into each other at the meat rack. Meat rack was a concrete bunker next to a Safeway supermarket kind of in Silver Lake, and it was a warren of concrete rooms and corners for sex. It had a very distinctive smell. It had a good soundtrack. It had a pretty good mix of people. I do remember it wasn't that much of a haze. Well, I'm going to leave that to your imagination. I mean, that's because this is a family magazine, right? And by the way, the Spotlight Bar reopened last week as a hipster DJ club. Shit. The Spotlight Bar, it opened at 6 in the morning for your first early morning cocktail, and I was witness to a lot of fights there. And I remember this one fight, some guy ended up on top of this other guy, and the guy underneath was punching at him, but the guy on top was punching the guy underneath, but he was also at the same time dragging him towards the door. It was kind of like this double spider making its way out the door. That was one of the most beautiful fights I've ever seen in my life. Next question is Vaginal Davis. Vaginal Davis, she is one of our grand dames of that subculture of that generation. She had bands called Pedro, Muriel, and Esther. She had zines. She had art galleries, and just beautiful. I love Vaginal. When are you going to do a collection based on the delicious persimmon cookies your gorgeous late Mother Connie used to bake? Love and kisses, Tante Vag. I hadn't really considered it, but you're right. I did actually publish the recipe for the persimmon cookies online. The persimmon cookies she used to make or the lemon cookies she used to make, we make them for the showroom because Mom used to do that. Dad used to pick the persimmons from their persimmon trees in the backyard in Porterville, and together they would make persimmon cookies to send to Los Angeles for our showroom. We're continuing the tradition. Of course, now they're vegan and gluten-free. Bruce and the Bruce. Which punk venues did you hang out in LA in the late 70s and 80s? Did you wear Doc Martens back then? If so, how many holes and what color laces? Did you slam dance and mosh in the mosh pit? And if so, did you get a hard-on while doing so? I feel like there was a skating rink in the valley that we would go to for some things. What other venues? There, oh my God, there was the Starlight, and that was kind of a glorious place. And I did slam dance. It's not like I was, you know, I got fucked up too. I still have a scar on my nose because I got hit in the nose with somebody's boot. And for the sake of mythology, I'm pretty sure it was a Doc Martin boot. And yes, I did get a hard on. My next question is from David Hoyle. Divine David. Divine David is Queer History 101. And it's just great because you can go back on YouTube and see every one of his episodes of Divine David that he was doing on cable TV, I think in the UK. His delirious, reckless expression. It's such a great lesson. It's such a great lesson in not taking your life or yourself too seriously. Be delirious like Divine David. I have been fortunate to enjoy hospitality on a number of occasions at your Paris Maison. Once when I was in the company of the photographer Lee Baxter and I was wearing a sequined top, you sauntered over and said, "David, sequins at brunch? What is your current policy regarding the wearing of sequin garments at brunch?" Oh, I endorse it wholeheartedly. I was probably saying it like in an admiringly, and gratefully for bringing sequins to the house at brunch. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Wait, love Rick more than alive. Wishing you all the very best. Any probs, call me. 07, call David. Rick has helped so many artists, particularly those deemed underground or fringe, i.e. poor. Total admiration to this genius. Yeah, David is a treasure. A treasure. Wait, this is fun. I didn't really know you guys were gonna do this. I was not prepared for this at all. I had no idea this was happening. This is the sweetest thing. Ludovic de San Cernon. Hey Rick, so I have two questions for you. The first one is very deep. What is a life lesson that you wish you learned sooner? I have a couple of them, and I thought about this the other day. It was a rocky beginning because I had no experience with the runway world. I'd never even been to a runway show. I was in Los Angeles and I didn't go to fashion weeks in Paris, New York, and London. So it was all very new to me. And it's not like I'd ever fantasized about the runway show I would have one day. It was just not in my brain. But then I kept doing the runway shows at the beginning, and at a certain point, there was a tipping point and people just decided to tolerate my pace and my evolution and accepted it. I always show in the same space in Paris in the Palais de Tokyo, and it's this parvis of these monumental Valhalla, Art Deco Valhalla buildings, and filling that space is kind of a challenge, but it's a thrill too. And I always think when I'm starting those shows, how do I fill this space from top to bottom? It's funny how I started out kind of hesitant about runway shows, and then I ended up being like Mr. Theater. I love that I'm able to convince people that a slower pace is tolerable and that it's possible, and that a slower evolution that isn't that sensational, that it has a place in the world. I thought that was a great message. I felt like it was the opposite of voracious overconsumption. You know, the runway shows with their excess, that was a world that I suppose I disapproved of it. I think it's dumb for me to disapprove of anything, but that's just not the kind of message. I wanted my message to be the opposite of that. Anything I say now, I might contradict myself tomorrow. I've always dressed flamboyantly. In my younger years, I wore full makeup. Not woman's makeup, just like white face with extra black eyes. I always think in kabuki terms. I've always thought in exaggeration that kind of didn't really acknowledge sexual limits. And I've always lived in a world of ambiguity, sexual ambiguity. So it was never something that I thought about. It's just something that naturally is in my world. I was raised in a very small conservative town, and my flamboyance was very criticized. I was very bullied for my personal flamboyance, and that filled me with rage. That kind of bigotry and narrow-mindedness and judging, that fueled me to promote exaggeration, flamboyance in theater, but in an everyday way. And what I've been doing is I have proposed exaggeration and tried, when I've made clothes that are a little bit more voluminous or longer, or they drape like a little bit more than they should, or things stick out. It's a very literal example of thinking outside of the box. Then came those platform boots that I wear every day. And they're such a fuck you to the conventional world. And that's a lot of what I wanted my clothes to be. I wanted my clothes to be gentle, but to signify a gentle rejection of what was considered suitable. I work out every day. I only have 3 routines that I repeat over and over again. So I'm gonna do like chest and triceps and stomach and calves on Monday, and then something else on Tuesday, something else on Wednesday, and then go back Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So I just repeat those 3 routines every day. And last week I was in Los Angeles with my family, and I didn't work out once, even though I thought I was going to, which was not that bad. I mean, everything will come back, I think. I'm 60 now, and everything's still pretty good. Yeah, so knock on wood. And I never do cardio. I hate cardio. I eat like a pig, and I smoke. So there you go.